Thank you, Carrie. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, let's go. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Yeah, nice. All right. I get it. I totally get it. I feel like I haven't been to church in like 3 weeks, which I feel a lot of guilt about, but it's good to be back. We had branches at home, and now somebody said we're branches at branches today, which I'm so grateful for, to see all of you here in person today in this new year. So happy New Year. So glad that you're here. As Carrie said, please take the opportunity to check in and let us know that you're here today. It gives us a chance to check in with you, to connect you to everything going on in the life of our community, especially in a new year with a lot of opportunities to grow in your spiritual life, to meet other people, to be in community, and just to find ways to be part of branches. We're so glad you're here, especially if it's one of your first times here. I'd love to get a chance to meet you after worship today. We're starting a brand new series called On Purpose, and just to kind of give the headline, the foundation of what we're talking about today and for the next 7 weeks is I want to set us up this year for growth, not success. I want to set us up to cultivate fruit, the fruit that comes from following Jesus, spiritual life, as we dig our roots deep into the life and teaching of Jesus, so that things just come happenstance, fruit come from our lives that look like, sound like, feel like the experience of Jesus' life. I want to set us up for growth, not necessarily success. And that requires us to take some steps, some practical steps. And that's what these next 7 weeks are about, that we want to live a life on purpose, of intention, of making choices, conscious decisions for us to grow in the likeness of Jesus, to grow in our spiritual lives. No one becomes more holy, more spiritually deep, more profound as a person on accident. We don't mosey our ways accidentally into a deeper spiritual life. Every spiritual person you admire across all sorts of faith traditions, none of them got there by accident, because they chose rhythms and practices, ways of life, paths to take, advice to follow, and they picked those things and stuck with them and practiced them, and that's how they grew. And that's what we're going to do over the next 7 weeks together. In this first week, we're talking about what it means to prepare, the preparation, the steps that we take to kind of lay the groundwork for this new year, for this new life we're trying to live together. And I don't know about you, what you did to prepare as you ended 2025. Maybe you just kind of looked ahead generally, like these are the sorts of things I want to accomplish. Maybe you set some resolutions, or you have a planner, you wrote down some goals, you connect with a spouse or a friend or one of your children or a colleague, and you kind of set some goals at work or in your own life, whatever you do. This time period, there's this kind of magic in the air of like, I can do anything. The world is before me. My calendar is relatively clear. This could happen, that could happen. This is on the horizon. I can go on this trip. I can achieve this thing. I can make this amount of money. I can grow this relationship. I can achieve this goal that I've wanted to do for so long. And there's so many different ways that we figure out how we can do this together. Of course, for me, TikTok is a great source to see how other people are doing it, to find some inspiration. This is a new one for me this year. I saw a guy talk about ins and outs. So for 2026, here are my ins and here are my outs. So ins meaning here are the things that I'm going to do, that I'm going to pay attention to, that I'm going to kind of put my life around. And here are the outs. Here are the things I'm going to cut out or to get rid of in my life. Ins and outs, kind of like a trend or something else that you're going to participate in. Here's what I'm going to pay attention to. Here's what I'm not going to pay attention to. This guy's name's AJ. I don't know him. Random guy on the internet. But here are AJ's ins and outs to give you some inspiration. Here are his ins. Early mornings, homemade lattes, barefoot in nature. You know, some things are for some people and aren't for other people. This is just AJ, you know. Being present with my kids, playlists, reading daily, positive thinking, healthy balanced diet, minimalism, slow life living, those sorts of things. That's in for 2026. These are the things I want to put my life around. Here are some of AJ's outs. Corporate chain coffee. Staying indoors, people-pleasing, doom-scrolling, staying up late, reading to impress others, noise for the sake of noise, chasing trends, fast food, constant urgency, rushing through moments. Let's go, AJ. I think those are great. I think those are great intentions to set. I'm curious, what are some of the things, and really do want you to participate, the things that you're kind of setting intentions for, the goals or resolutions you have, even if it's just the category. What are some of the things you're looking forward to in 2026? Yeah, Marcel. Yeah, not be on your phone first thing in the morning. Marcel and I decided at 9:45 we're going to be accountability buddies for that one. So anybody else wants to join in, I think that's a great one. I thought initially, like, okay, how am I going to wake up? Where's my alarm? Toddler. And, you can get an alarm that's not on your phone. Novel for me. So anyway, I think that's a great one. What are some other resolutions or some ins or outs for you for this coming year? Movement, yeah, let's move our bodies for sure. Yeah. Lifting weights, love it. Anything else? Yes, Nora. A better relationship with my friends. I love that. That's awesome. Yes. Pour into your relationships. Anything else? Yes, Peter. Sleep. I love that one too. That's really good. Yeah. Everybody talks about shortest verse in the New Testament, Jesus wept. Remember also Jesus slept on this boat when the storm was raging. Jesus slept. Good example. Sleep more. It's biblical. Anything else? Nobody said read the Bible more? Wow. Okay, cool. Anyway, moving on. Maybe you just didn't want to say that out loud. I get it. I'm just kidding. There are all sorts of ways we can frame or look forward to this coming year together. How we can set intentions, resolutions. Landon and I did a thing, maybe you saw it on the internet too, doing a bingo card. So you make a bingo card for the coming year. You mark things off, like you want to read a certain amount of books, or you want to go on a certain amount of hikes, or watch this many movies, or go on this many dates, or you can put things on there that may or may not happen. I put meet a celebrity on mine. I think it was like, that'd be kind of cool to mark off on the bingo card on my refrigerator. Another way we can look forward to the year, I saw another guy do a playbook. So he's like, okay, here are the sorts of things that happen in my life, and these are the intentions I'm setting about how I'm going to respond to them. Like if this comes up, this is my play, this is what I'm going to do. If this comes up, this is what I'm going to do, kind of another way to frame it. So another person do punch cards, so like you get at a restaurant, like after 6 sandwiches, you get a 7th one free. So it's like punch cards for books, or punch cards for the movies that you watch, or for the dates you go on, whatever else, and you start to kind of keep track of them physically in an analog way that way. Maybe you're just kind of setting some affirmations like, I'm capable, I can do this, I'm going to do great at my job, whatever else. Another one I thought was really creative and helpful is a 2026 entrance song. So like somebody going up to bat, what their batting song is the song you're walking into 2026 for. There's like that Ellie Goulding song, Anything Can Happen, very inspirational. Yes, anything can happen. I thought mine could be Crazy Train, only because that was Chipper Jones' walk-up song, and I just love that. I thought it was really cool, and he would do that. If you have other suggestions, I'll take them, but think about your kind of 2026 entrance song. How we begin a year, what song we walk into, what the soundtrack is, what our intention is, what our goals are, our bingo card, our playbook, the framing devices we use to step into a new season, arbitrary as it may be, is really rooted not just where we are now, what we're excited about now, but where we've just been. What happened in this past year in 2025? What sort of things did we come up against? What sort of things entered our lives as interruptions or things that we didn't want to happen? What good, positive surprises did we find in ourselves or in others? What relationships were born or flourished? What things got in the way? What things lifted us up? We look back on this year, and we stand in this present one, this few days into it, and we look forward into this next one we're walking into in the horizon ahead of us. And all of it is built on what happened before, from where we were to where we are now to where we want to go. And we have to kind of set an intention, like, okay, that stuff that happened, I want to avoid that, or I want to walk through that again, I want to experience that again, I want to cultivate the conditions where that happens again. Where we were determines where we are now, and certainly determines where we will be. And like I said, there's this novelty, there's magic to a new year, but it's usually about this time, the kind of 3rd or 4th day into a new year, we're like, oh wow, like the midnight striking between 2025 and 2026, nothing changed in me. The way we count time, it just kind of happens to be that way. I'm still the same person I was at the end of 2025 that I am at the beginning of 2026. So I have to like make some choices. I have to be intentional, do some things on purpose for my life to either be different or to continue to grow in the way that it did in this past year. I have to be intentional and do things on purpose. And no matter what tools or apps or framing devices or coaching or courses we paid for because they were on sale on December 31st or whatever else, we still have to do the thing. We have to take action. We have to set rhythms and intentions and habits and find accountability and find community in them. And though our calendar may be relatively open by now, eventually we start to drift and it starts to fill up with the same old mundane stuff we don't want in there. For us to do 2026 and this coming year, and actually every year following on purpose, to do it with intention, I think we should turn to not just the wisdom of the Bible generally, but the wisdom that Jesus rooted himself in, and primarily this book of Psalms. It's prayers and poems in the middle of your Bible that we know because Jesus quoted them so frequently and prayed them and referenced them so often, were at the heart of his spiritual life and intention. And I actually looked, this is the fourth time we're talking about Psalm 1 here at Branches, because I think it's so helpful for us to set a spiritual foundation for us. So Psalm 1 is the very first one. Many scholars think it's not just the first one in a series of 150, but is the kind of frame, is really the introduction for how to read all the rest of these poems. So we're in Psalm 1, starting in verse 1. We'll read all 6 verses, and here's what it says. Happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or take the path that sinners tread, or sit in the seat of scoffers. But their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law they meditate day and night. And they're like trees planted by streams of water, which yield fruit in its season. And their leaves do not wither, and in all they do they prosper. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. Friends, this is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God. We see masterfully constructed here in this poem the vision of a life that has kind of 3 major parts, 3 major facets, 3 major kind of big rocks that you kind of place at the center of your life. The first one is the advice that you take, the counsel that you take. We all, either in person or secondhand, listen to the advice of someone. Your spouse, a friend, a boss, a mentor, a book, an author that you read often. And the beginning of this psalm says, a happy person, a blessed person, some translations say, person on the right path, doesn't listen to the advice of wicked people. That is, they don't listen to the advice of people who are making a wreck of their and others' lives. That's the first part, is the counsel that you take. And I don't think anybody would feel negative about that you should take good advice. Yeah, cool. That's really low bar. You should take good advice. You should take good counsel. But happy or blessed are those are the ones who take the advice of people who are righteous, not wicked. Second, not just from the advice, but how you play out that advice in your life, your conduct is the second facet. So not only do you not follow the advice of the wicked, you don't walk on the same paths as them. You don't do the same things they do. You don't practice the same practices or have the same rhythms in your life. Rather, you take another way. You conduct yourself in another way. That's the second facet. The third one is your company. That is the people around you, or the place that you are planted, if we want to put it another way. I've shared this before. Someone asked me, man, you quote your dad a lot. Yeah, he must have had a lot of wise things to say. I'm like, really? You have 20, 25, and he just said them a lot. And one of them was, you are the company you keep, which again, I've shared before, is my dad's nice, wise way of telling me he did not like my friends. And we see that again in the psalm, that the company you keep, the seat that you sit in among scoffers, does something to you. Likewise, when we turn it over, we see all those things again, the counsel and the conduct and the company that you keep, turned over in another way, in the righteous way, the metaphor changes. First, their delight is in the law of the Lord. The counsel they take, the advice that they take, is of God's. It's God's advice. It's God's guidance. You wouldn't be surprised to hear me say, we should take God's advice. And that's what the psalm is saying. He's a pretty good advice giver. He made everything. He wants the best for you. Take his counsel. Take his advice. Second, you should take the path, the conduct that God has carved out in the law. It says they meditate on his law day and night. They consider the advice, the counsel that God has given, and they apply it, and they walk that path, not the way of the wicked. They take another path. And third, they don't sit in the seat of scoffers. Rather, they plant themselves like a tree into streams of water, and then, as a result, they bear fruit in its season. Fruit comes, the things that God desires, compassion and love and peace and harmony and shalom, as the Old Testament puts it. Those sorts of things come from the person who plants themselves in the source, in the life of God. You take God's advice, you follow the path that he's charted out for people, and then you plant yourself in his life, so your life comes out of God's life. Pastor Tom shared this from David Bowie, talking about a conversation he had with John Lennon, and this is how he retells that story. He says, is, again, David Bowie. I remember talking with John at the time, John Lennon. I'm like, oh, cool, neat. You got to meet John Lennon. About people we admired, and he said to me, when I've discovered someone new, I tend to become that person. I want to soak myself in their stuff to such an extent that I have to be them. So when he first found Dylan, he said he would dress like Dylan and only play his kind of music till he kind of understood how it worked. And that's exactly how I feel about it as well. I did that too. I lived the life, whatever it was. It was a process of becoming, of transforming into the thing you admire and want to be, to find out what makes it tick. It was like a beautiful, perfect description of one of our core values here at Branches, to abide. Jesus says to his disciples, abide in me and I'll abide in you. My love will abide in you and you will abide in me, and you'll bear much fruit, just like the psalm says. Stick with me. Plant your life in me, as the psalm describes, as in streams of water, and then fruit will come. You'll become more like me. We set this intention on purpose to prepare our lives in this new season, or maybe we need to do it again in a month by taking the advice of God we find embodied in and spoken in the mouth of Jesus in the Gospels that we read together at Branches. We find it in Jesus' conduct and what not only he did in healing and transforming people's lives in his present ministry, but also the thing that Jesus does now, which is transform people's lives now, love people now, compassion and grace and mercy now. That sort of charted path embodied in the person and life of Jesus. And third, we plant ourselves, we root ourselves, we minnow, we abide in Jesus' lives, connect our lives to his. If you haven't watched it yet, you should. The theological, philosophical themes are rich, and also if you're a murder mystery person at all, you will find a lot of joy in it. The new Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man, is sick. It's really, really good, and it's like this movie was made for me. One of my favorite directors, a murder mystery, and the main character is not the detective Benoit Blanc. It's a young, starry-eyed, naive clergy person. I'm like, oh, wow, I know him. I feel like I could just see into his mind and his heart. It was like, what these people really need is just more Jesus. I'm like, yes, right, Judd? Father Judd is right, That is really the heart of this movie, is that Father Judd is like, he's this associate pastor to this really bad priest, and he's like, really, my job is to cut you out so that people can find joy and hope and grace in Jesus. And he wants to point them to Jesus, and I love it. Really, really wonderful story, really wonderful, wonderful movie. I'd love for us to all watch it and talk about it sometime. And you guys all come over. Landon will love that. You guys all come over. We'll watch Wake Up Dead Man. It'll be awesome. And in the movie, one of the initial framing devices, you hear Father Judd, this young priest, retelling everything up into this one point. And you realize it's because Benoit Blanc, this detective, has asked him to retell everything he remembers from one point to the current point, and they can go back over it, read it again, and see if they've missed anything or looked at anything differently in the witness of this murder. That's really what we're doing at the beginning of this year, is we're kind of scanning over this past year, looking over our past to find ourselves in the present and trying to see with God's eyes. God isn't some just absent father, kind of like, good luck with this new year. He's participating in this process, saying, let us both get fresh eyes on this past year and look at this new year, look at this new season, and see if we notice anything we didn't notice before. Some things that keep cropping up that maybe we're cultivating that we can get rid of. Maybe some things, some opportunities we have that we didn't quite notice that we can step into. Some relationships that we can pour into, our friendships, our marriages, our children. Maybe there's an opportunity in our job. Maybe there's an opportunity in our spiritual lives. Maybe there's something else that we didn't see, and we're just gonna just scan over it together. So as we'll do every week here, I wanna give just really 4 really granular, practical ways we can do this together. If you scanned that circle on the back of your chair today, you might have seen at the bottom of the menu, On Purpose 2026, and there's a PDF in there. And it has the first chapter today for preparation, and the following weeks we'll have all of them together with these suggested practices. And today for the preparation practices, just a few suggestions for you to do this work of looking back over a year and thinking about the counsel you take, the advice you take, your conduct, and then how you're planting yourself, where you have been planted and where you should be planted. The first one is an older practice, the examen. You've heard us talk about it before, maybe if you've been here before. St. Ignatius of Loyola was a Spanish priest. Before that, he had a really bad cannonball injury, which is something I hope I never have to say of myself, that I got a really bad cannonball injury. But he became a priest after that traumatic experience, and he developed this spiritual practice called the examen. It has 5 rhythms to it, and this is an oversimplification, but you can look up more about it if you're curious. 5 rhythms to this practice where you're basically scanning over what's past, the day, the week behind you. The first rhythm is gratitude. You thank God for the gifts of this past period of time, the past day, for the past week. You do this at night. You look back over from the morning to where you are in the evening, just as Father Judd did. Second, petition. You ask God for his insight through the Spirit from that time that's passed. Ask him to help you see things you didn't see before. 3, you review. If you have a planner, you look through your phone calendar, review hour by hour, minute by minute, everything that happened, and just look at it with fresh eyes. Look for where God was present. Look for where you felt discouraged. Scan over it again as you would scan your body when you meditate. 4th, forgiveness. If you see some places where you were at fault, where you messed up, ask God for forgiveness and his mercy, and the good news is he grants it and gives it when you ask. And the 5th one is renewal, that you can say, okay, I've looked at this past day, I have this new day ahead of me. Help me go into it with your Spirit, with your love, with your compassion. Very simple 5-piece rhythm that you can do. Something you can do also, in addition to that, or maybe on its own as another practice, is from our own Christian tradition, the Wesleyan tradition. John Wesley had these 21 or 22 questions, depending on how you count, called the self-examination questions. If you scan that circle again, you'll find them listed in there. And they are cutting, incisive questions. He doesn't just ask himself and ask you to ask yourself, do I pray or did I pray? But did I enjoy prayer? That's a different question altogether. Or is the Bible alive in me? Was the Bible alive in me? So that's different than did I do my Bible reading plan? That's did it come alive in my life? Or a hard one, difficult one for me. Do I pray about the money I spend? No, not all the time, Jesus. Sometimes. But these incisive, cutting questions that you can read over every morning, every evening, every week. Another helpful way to scan over your spiritual life, to think about the advice you're taking and the conduct you have and where you're planting yourself. The third one is kind of a more modern take on both of these kind of life scanning practices. If you open your phone and go to your photos and scroll back to or search for January 1st, 2025, so the beginning of last year, start there and scroll through every single picture in your phone from the beginning of last year to December 31st of 2025. You'll, of course, have taken pictures of things that brought you joy, the memes you sent to your friends to make them laugh, the halfway nose to forehead pictures your toddler took. I have a lot of those. Screenshots of books that you intend to read or were supposed to read that you forgot all about, the trips that you took, the places you went, the meals you enjoyed, and then you start to see with fresh eyes your life in pictures of the past year. There's a way of doing that scanning, of thinking about the advice you took, the conduct you had, and the places you were planted. The fourth one is a little more broad. A lot of people do this for productivity and planning too, just a brain dump. You set out a couple of pieces of blank paper in front of you and just unravel by writing ahead of you or typing this past year, the things you're carrying, the things you're worried about, the things that you missed over the past year. Just kind of get it all out there. You start to feel this lightness, this freedom, and you can give it to God in that practice. These are all suggestions. This list is not exhaustive, but just to kind of get you to a point, get you to a jumping off point where you can look back and say, okay, this is where my life was, this is where I am now, this is where God is calling me to go, and I want to take God's advice in Jesus, and I want to conduct myself and imitate Jesus so that I can become more like him. And I want to plant myself in him as this tree in the psalm, planting my roots in deep water that gives life so I can bear fruit that looks like Jesus. The good news is, we have centuries of people who have done this and borne that fruit. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're planting ourselves into a deep tradition with lots of fruit and lots of good example and lots of failure we can learn from and lots of stories that are inspiring and lots of communities we can connect ourselves to, including this one, to do it together. Whether we do it as a group, whether we do it as spouses or partners or friends, whether we do it just in the quiet of our connection with Jesus, God promises that when we plant our lives in him, we bear much fruit. And that's good news to start a new year together. And thanks be to God for that. Let's pray. God, we thank you for this new opportunity, arbitrary as it may be, for a new year, for a new season, for new practices, for new rhythms, for new life, for new opportunities. And we just ask that you'd make us mindful of you in every minute of it. That when we scan our days, when we look at our pictures, when we examine ourselves with deep questions, we would find you there most of all. Your encouragement, your grace, your mercy, your warmth of your love close to us, that that we can know in every moment we're not alone, and that you are the great advice giver, you're the great counselor, that you are the one in Jesus Christ we can imitate your life and conduct ourselves after, and you are faithful to be one we can plant our lives in and bear much fruit. Abide in us, Jesus, as we abide in you. We ask all this in your name. Amen. Friends, part of this preparation for us is thinking about how we can give ourselves away monetarily, with our time, with our energy, with service. And so at Branches, we think about giving in a couple of different ways, not just monetarily, but also how we serve on Sunday mornings, the folks that serve communion or coffee or greet you at the door, is a way that we give and prepare ourselves to set ourselves up for growth for this year. So thank you for your gifts. If you want to give online by scanning the QR code or the tap in front of you, if you want to give physically, there's a basket by the door when you leave today. We're so grateful for your gifts because it enables us to be a place where we can plant ourselves, abide in, connect ourselves to Jesus, and bear fruit. So thanks be to God for that.